It's Tori, and welcome to Motley Crew episode 32 with Evie. Hi, Evie. Welcome.
Wow.
This is long overdue, I feel like.
I have been waiting. When you messaged me, you were like, hey, do you want to do Motley Crew? I'm like, I've been waiting for this moment.
I've been waiting my whole life. That's awesome. Well, for anybody who's going to be in the chat who, for whatever reason, doesn't know Evie, please go down in the description box below and click on the link to her channel and give her a subscribe because she is awesome. And she has an incredibly varied taste in books, which is one of the things I have always really appreciated about you. So the first thing that I want to talk about kind of is along that line. And that is, I'm dying to know, is the word eclectic fair for your reading taste? Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that.
For our niche of booktube, that is probably more
for like fantasy sci-fi booktube, I would say it's eclectic.
Yeah.
I do get kind of like nervous when people are like, oh, you read classics, or oh, you read this, and I'm like, I don't read, like, I read a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but like I don't read enough classics to call myself a classics reader, or enough percentage wise, according to the data that I've held for the past 5 years, I do read mostly fantasy, but I just feel like I don't read enough to really call myself a fantasy reader or a sci-fi reader or a classics reader.
Yeah, you just kind of read wide.
I'm just a mood reader.
That's fair. That's fair. Honestly, I feel like we need more mood reading in booktube. I feel like TBRs take over people's lives sometimes, as we were talking about earlier. Because one of the things that I'm like, I love when my friends talk about books that I have legitimately never heard of. And I feel like I'm always opening Goodreads after I'm watching one of your videos or seeing you talk about. So like, wait, what is this about? So for you, like, what does a book have to be that like 5.5 star rating? Are there any patterns that you know about yourself?
I've come to accept it about myself that if it's sad and or melancholy, that's like, that just screams Evie book.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I read what was it, The King of Elfland's Daughter earlier.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say this month, but I'm like, nope, we're in October. In early September, and it's a very melancholy book, and I'm like,
and you loved it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm not helping my reputation here, because this is a sad book.
I don't know, though. I feel like it's funny because the whole time that I was growing up, my mother used to always complain about the fact that I liked these really sad stories. And I loved tragic heroism and like all of this kind of stuff. She was always like, but the ending's so sad. And I'm like, I know, isn't it great?
There's something so cathartic about sad, melancholy books.
Yeah, just let us be sad, okay? So in that vein, what would you say is, if there's a book from your favorites list that just kind of embodies that, as this is Evie's taste in a book, could you narrow it down to one?
Oh god. Okay. So people are gonna expect me to say Spear Cuts Through Water. It is to some degree that. But I actually, Derry, where's your bingo card? Tattoo showing. I think Persuasion, Frankenstein, and Wuthering Heights are like...
That's your Venn diagram?
That's my Venn diagram, because you got the romantic, sad girl in Anne Elliot in Persuasion. You've got the awful, awful human beings that are in Wuthering Heights. I know we have differing opinions there. And just the sad, melancholy, just utter depression and grief and anger of Frankenstein. 18 edition, by the way, just saying. Yeah, and I think that's just, those are my like trifecta, my holy trinity of not only classics, 19th century British literature, but yeah, I think it's really, that put me on my trajectory and like really established what kind of books I like. Chris, I see your comment about Jane Eyre.
We will get there.
I will leave this stream.
Well, speaking of the chat, hi Pete. I know we already said hi. Hi Pete. Hi Mike. Derry is in the chat. Matt, Alicia. Hi Cal. Britton.
Hello.
Okay. I feel like my brain is completely. That's not K-Fox. No.
K-Fox was here earlier, I think. Different. Yep.
Welcome. I had a moment where I was like, wait a second. Hello. Let's see. Sadness is also Cal's favorite.
So, speaking of the road,
let's talk about it.
I haven't read it, so
okay.
I'm just going off what everybody says. But this is tangentially related. Everyone talks about The Road being this great, post-apocalyptic fiction. Please read Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. That needs to be in the conversation. It is so dark, so harrowing, and I love it.
Fits into the Venn diagram.
Yeah. Indeed. It's my favorite book of the year so far.
I feel it was really interesting looking through your Goodreads because the stack of books that I pulled out that we have the same opinions on, it was really interesting to look at those because on the other hand, we have very diametrically opposing opinions of a lot of books also. So it was kind of interesting to see like where the overlap was and where it falls off. Because I want to try, I'm going to preface this by saying I really want to try Kindred because I think that one's going to work way better for me. I bounced off of Parable of the Sower. Everybody should still read it. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I got like 30% in, maybe. I think. Yeah.
I'm not sure why you bounced off of it, but I've read 1, 2, 3, 4. I've read one of her series and Kindred and Parable of the Sower, and then her short story collection. If you've read one from a writing style perspective and tone, she's consistent. It's the same. She's very, very dark, and she does not play grudges.
Yeah.
She's not like graphic or gratuitous or
Yeah.
Actually, I would say she is graphic, but it's
not gratuitous though.
Yeah, she's not gratuitous, but it's so clinical, like so clinically almost.
Yeah.
And there's no like style to it at the same time. It's like in Kindred, like that's the best book I will never read ever again. It's really, really hard.
Really hard to read. Yeah, that's what I was getting from what I've heard of it, and also just the synopsis by itself. I feel like you could probably infer that.
I think it is required reading, but
for sure.
That's probably the only book that I would say should be required reading for everyone.
Nice. But. Yeah, that one I definitely want to try maybe next year. No, actually her writing style didn't bother me at all. I think I went into it expecting it to be more, how do I phrase this? It was almost too philosophical for me. Like I felt like I was in a book I didn't sign up for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to be fair, Parable of the Sower is like the whole premise is about a religion being formed.
Right.
So
Yeah. So
that doesn't work with you. Like you're not going to jive with it.
Right. So. Yeah. And that's why I think Kindred, I anticipate that going better based on what I know of it. I don't know if you can really say, like, I don't want to say, I think I'll enjoy that more because I don't know that that's the type of book I can enjoy, but I think I will appreciate that one more.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend watching Darko's review of Kindred.
Yes, I've seen that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That was excellent. Incredible. That was really, really good. There's K-Fox. Hi, K-Fox. Hey, Matt.
Matt, you're up late, sir.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, Chris, I saw that you posted another video. That's awesome. Welcome back, my friend. Good to see you. Yes.
Indeed.
That is a place where our categories overlap, I feel like. I feel like I lean, maybe this is weird, but I think I lean more towards sad boy books than sad girl books, but I appreciate both. Derry likes bittersweet. Yeah, that's a good. So let's dip into Robin Hobb since she came up. So you're not a fan, clearly. Yeah, awful. So you've read the entire Realm of the Elderlings.
Yes.
Like, we all, like, we're all fantasy fans. We all know what it feels like to get to the end of like big series. That one, I can't imagine like having the Realm of the Elderlings under my belt. It's going to be a while before I get there. As a whole, talk to me about like your overview of Realm of the Elderlings as a whole, and kind of looking back now that you're on the other side of it, how you felt about that whole experience of going through it.
Someone mentioned in the chat, well, what about Hobb? Hobb is the perfect example of sad, melancholy fiction that I love.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just going through the experience of Realm of the Elderlings as I was going through, I've never, actually, now that I think about it, I think that's the longest series I've ever read. Like, I tend to gravitate more towards standalones, or short series, 3 books at most.
Yeah.
And I absolutely devoured that series. I mean, I read it in a little over a year.
That's impressive.
14 months, 16 months. I don't know. What is time anymore? But, yeah, and just her writing, Robin Hobb's writing, it spoke to me in every single way. And then, I've said this before, again, Derry, get your bingo card out. If it's on the bingo card, if it's not, it should be. But when people read Fitz's books and they don't like Fitz, I fully acknowledge that it's irrational, but I think if they don't like Fitz, they're not gonna like me. Like, I identify so deeply with Fitz, and I'm like, Fitz is my boy. Like, I am Fitz in some degrees. And it's just, there's a catharsis in reading Realm of the Elderlings, not just Fitz's books, but Liveship Traders and Rainwild Chronicles. And I think that's another aspect of the kind of sad, melancholy books that I gravitate towards, is the catharsis of reading these stories. Because as chipper as I seem sometimes, I'm a sad girl. And it's cheaper than therapy, reading is.
Amen.
So when I can get that catharsis and that full 100% therapy, good.
Yeah. Well, that was an interesting conversation that I had once, kind of going back to, my mother and I liking very different types of stories, which is completely fine. But at one point she was like asking me if it doesn't make me almost depressed to read these really sad stories that might have like tragic endings or whatever. And I've always tried to explain it to her as, no, I think kind of along the therapy line, it allows me to see that catharsis of, I'm not alone. I can see that it's a way to channel emotion into a story as opposed to out at the world, which is beneficial for everyone. And yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes people immediately jump to that conclusion. Well, that's just good. That's not going to help your mental health. And it's like, actually, it's a great way to channel it.
Yeah. And I think it's oftentimes, and of course, I can't think of specific examples other than Realm of the Elderlings off the top of my head. Oftentimes the books that resonate so deeply with me are those books where I realize things about myself through the fiction as I'm reading. Because there are some things that I don't recognize, and I'm like, I resonate deeply with this thing that's happening. Oh, why is that?
Why?
And I do a lot of self-reflection, and I make these realizations, and it helps me become hopefully a better person or a worse person. Who knows? So
well, I mean, I think that's why the chat I had with Derry after I finished Ship of Magic was so helpful, because I had such a visceral reaction to that book that I immediately stepped back and was like, let's unpack that and figure out why. Like, don't just throw the book against the wall and like ask. And I think that's important for anybody, no matter what you're reading, is if you have a really strong reaction to something that's happening in the book, it's really healthy to pause and try to okay, why am I having this kind of a reaction, and what can I learn about myself or the world around me through the reaction I'm having to this? And yeah, I mean, Derry, of course, shockingly, was awesome at helping me unpack Ship of Magic specifically. And I was able to start to articulate a lot of things that have bothered me in other books that I didn't really have the right words for until I got to Ship of Magic.
Yeah.
Pete wants to know where Tchaikovsky fits into your diagram.
So, depends on what book and or series you're talking about. Final Architecture has the sad melancholy element to it. Idris Telemir, I love him so much. He is sad boy personified. But he's not, Tchaikovsky is so, I don't know, he's so dynamic and so versatile in his writing. He writes everything.
Right.
And so much, and to such a, for me, such a high caliber of writing. And yeah, Tchaikovsky, he's as fun as I will get while still being engaged, because I make this joke all the time that there's more than a grain of truth to this joke, in that I don't read to have fun. I don't like having fun. I like the catharsis. I like the engagement, the challenge, of the intellectual challenge. It makes me sound like a total hoity-toity, I don't know, pretentious reader, but I don't, I guess to put it more simply is, and this is completely kind of veering off what Pete was asking, a lot of people talk about how they read to escape. I don't read for escapism. I read to understand myself, understand the world better, understand others better. And I don't know. So the fun aspect of it, for me, that equates to escapism, and I just don't really do that. That's not why I read. That's not to say that obviously that there's a bad aspect for people that read for fun. That's obviously not what I'm saying. But for me, I just don't read for that.
Which is fair. I think that's why, we always talk about reading and reviewing is so subjective. That's why, because there are some people who, they want that escapism, and they want reads that are going to, I don't want to say, and again, trying to avoid the same thing, like not make them think, but you know what I mean? Like, they don't want to have to work really hard internally to read the book. They want to kind of relax out of that for a while.
Right.
And that's completely understandable, honestly.
Right.
But yeah, I'm the same way. I really struggle with fun reads, and I have to be really careful when I review them that I'm recognizing that not all readers read the same way I do. Because sometimes I feel like I feel like I'm getting more critical than I should be. And part of that is because I'm in drafting mode for my own books right now. And so I'm like, squinting at everything I read with the editor brain partially turned on. So I'm trying really hard to avoid that. But
I will say the one single book, I am Fitz confirmed. The one book that was solely fun for me and I loved every single page of it is Zombie Bake Off by Stephen Graham Jones. And I think because it was sheer fun, like I had already had an established like repertoire, whatever, relationship with Stephen Graham Jones's writing. Right. So I was like, I already love his stuff. I already love his writing. And then just Zombie Bake Off, as you would expect from that title, is just pure and utter fun.
Chaos.
Chaos.
Yeah.
It's a D movie at best horror film in a novel form. It's just so fun.
Nice. Yeah, I know I've seen you talk about him a lot, so I know he's I have Mongrels somewhere.
Yeah. That was my first one. I love that.
That'll be my first one too. I haven't read any. Chance, totally agree. Typically enjoy experiencing life through others' eyes and learning from it, not in a sort of escapist way, but in a more observant way. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Same, Britain. Not enough. That honestly checks out in a lot of ways, Derry. I think also it depends on
the type of reader, like we were talking about.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. And I feel like how
sorry, hold on. Derry, you read Zombie Bake Off yesterday? Nice. Thank you.
Well, yeah, she needed something to read after she's read Dungeon Crawler Carl 8 times this month. So, you know.
and you actually do mean this month, October.
Yeah. Yep. It's been 3 days, obviously. We've gotten through that already. I'd believe it. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Interesting.
Yeah, it starts in July 2024.
Interesting. I forgot about that. I'm checking.
That's another aspect that I've realized about myself is I love like not epistolary, but well, I love epistolary apparently, but I like just the journal entry aspects of novels.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I typically don't like first person narrative, but apparently when it's in that style, give it to me.
Yeah.
Give me all of it.
I'm excited for Dracula because of that. I haven't read it yet, which is atrocious. I can't wait.
Say much. I only read it like 3 years ago. I don't know. You looked up all my Goodreads data. You probably
I didn't memorize all the dates. Yeah, I'm hoping to read that one, if not by the end of the year, early next year. Next year, I'm really hoping to get through some more classics because I have a few on my list that I'm like, okay, it is time where I really am in the mood for some classics. So I want to try to burn through a few before that goes away. Yeah.
Do you have any in mind that you're thinking of, or are you just gonna?
Yes, Dracula is one. I also have never read Lord of the Flies, so I'm gonna read that one. And then Anna Karenina is one that I really want to read really badly. Evie's not a fan.
I tried it and I didn't have the patience that I do now.
Sure.
But with that said, I watched the Joe Wright film with Keira Knightley and I'm like, I know how this ends. So really,
yeah.
I mean,
I don't remember. So that
there's essentially like there are just some writers and some authors that when you hear the book or you hear the writer, you're like, oh, I really want to try them.
Yeah.
Leo Tolstoy just not never has sparked an interest in me.
This does not spark joy.
I can't say it sparks joy or not because I haven't technically tried anything by him.
Sure.
Before, other than the taste test of Anna Karenina. Like it's just sometimes you get those buzzwords or like you're like you hear something, an author or buzzword, whatever, and you're like, oh, I need to read that now.
Yeah.
I'm so intrigued.
Yeah.
And just I don't know, maybe The Death of Ivan Ilyich.
I've read that
one.
Yeah. Again, no, I have not read that one. I've read Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky. That's the one that I've read. That's an interesting read. That's about the extent of, I think, what I can say about that one. Yeah, it was interesting. There were some great lines in that, but yeah, I really want to read Ivan Ilyich because I know Jimmy really enjoyed that one. Do we want to dip into the discussion of Jane Eyre and probably Wuthering Heights, or do we want to just...
I mean, it's up to you. It's your show.
I don't care. Okay, so I have a question about this, though, because despite the reaction to this question earlier, I did notice on your Goodreads that Jane Eyre was given a 5-star rating.
Yeah, so...
Which surprised me, honestly, based on our previous conversations.
I mean, part of it, I feel like when you're a Bronte fan, you choose your camp. You're either...
Sure.
Much like your Team Edward versus Team Jacob, you're either Team Charlotte or Team Emily. And poor Anne is left out in the cold by both of them. Like, sitting on the bench, never chosen.
Poor Always Anne. The bridesmaid.
Yeah. Anne Bronte. If you haven't read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, or
I've heard that's really good.
Agnes Gray's the superior Jane Eyre.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
But yeah, no, to your point, I value Jane Eyre for its place in the literary canon.
That's very diplomatically said, by the way.
It is very well written. Mm-hmm. It is it's engaging. It's intellectually engaging for me as well. I just am so frustrated by so many things about that book. But still, it's great at the same time. Like, it's still 5 stars.
Yeah, I get that.
Wuthering Heights is still the best. So.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Bronte had lived longer and
written more. Yeah, well, it's interesting because the reason I read Wuthering Heights is because that was the book. My husband and I have a thing every year where we each... This usually ends up being more than one book, but we each pick a book that the other one has to read by the end of the year. And so last year... Ben picked Wuthering Heights for me, and I went into it pretty open because I already liked Jane Eyre, and I was like, hey, if we're getting more of this kind of vibe, I'm totally here for it. But I think I don't know if he overhyped it, maybe, but he was convinced that I was going to absolutely love Heathcliff's character. And I don't.
I gotta make sure. Does Ben think it's a romance?
I don't think so. We actually had a long conversation about, no, it's just a bunch of really messed up people like being awful to each other the whole time.
Yeah, people who love like grimdark, like
yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
Not unreliable. What's the word I'm looking for? Despicable characters, like protagonists. Read Wuthering Heights, please. It's got I reread it recently. It's one scene. Also, it's 200 years old. It's not a big deal. Heathcliff holding a knife to Nellie and putting it between her teeth, saying he's gonna like cut her open. I'm like, this isn't a book written in the mid 1800s. Oh my god.
Yep.
Like,
that was a lot of violence for that time period.
It's so violent for now, let alone then.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, but I love it so much.
Yeah. I think one of the things so I'm going to do a video shortly, like in the next week or so here, called saying nice things about books I hate. And so I'm practicing. So one of the things that I will say about Wuthering Heights that really impressed me was the atmosphere of that book is stellar. Like, oh my goodness, you could feel the atmosphere as you were reading it. So in that, high marks from me on that, and I will give her that because that was very impressive.
I have little faith in the upcoming Wuthering Heights adaptation as well. So
I didn't even know there was one.
Yeah, Margot Robbie is going to be in it, and I love Margot Robbie, so she's fine. But Jacob Elordi, I just have a feeling they're going to do the Wuthering Heights is a romance thing again. And
sure.
I'm like, that's not Wuthering Heights. Do you not read the book?
Yeah. I also like Margot Robbie, but I'm having a hard time putting Margot Robbie and Wuthering Heights together in my head. Like, that's not computing. Okay, so this is where I have to make the embarrassing confession that while I am a massive fan of Jane Austen's stories, I have not read start to finish a single Jane Austen book.
Wait, what?
I have not finished a single Jane Austen book yet in my lifetime. I grew up watching all of the Jane Austen.
Got it. Okay.
So, like, I'm a big fan.
So 95 Pride and Prejudice or 2005?
That's not even a competition. 95, 100%. 100%. Don't give me Keira Knightley. Don't you dare. Don't do it.
Oh, God.
I will die on that hill.
Listen, we survived Wuthering Heights, apparently. 95 versus 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
So here's the thing.
I draw the line.
Like, this is completely separate from Keira Knightley as a person, because I'm sure she's lovely. So we're just going to set that aside. I cannot stand her as an actress, which is, I know, a very unpopular opinion. I can't. So as soon as they were like, Lizzie Bennet is Keira Knightley, I was like, no, absolutely not. I will say the name of the guy who plays Mr. Collins in the 2005.
Tom Hollander.
He did a phenomenal job. I was very impressed. Excellent work. Thank you, Derry. Thank you.
Fine.
Yeah, 100% 1995. Although I will say, I was completely prepared to dislike the newer miniseries Sense and Sensibility. I can't remember exactly when that came out.
2007 or 2008, because they did like a whole bunch of like Jane Austen on PBS or whatever. At least
I was, because I grew up with the older Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet version of Sense and Sensibility, and I'm sorry, but Alan Rickman is Colonel Brandon, and I don't care who else ever plays that role. Nobody's gonna touch that. And also, like, Emma Thompson's just incredible performance as Eleanor is still one of my favorite female performances ever in TV. But I actually really liked the newer miniseries. I thought they did a good job with it. That one I was impressed by.
Yeah, I liked all of their the newer adaptations. I didn't like their version of Persuasion for the longest time. I prefer the 1995 adaptation of Persuasion. And then the Netflix adaptation was released, and I'm like, all right, I'll take the 2007 one. Like, it's at least made me prefer that one over this piece of trash. So
yeah.
Oh God.
Well, I feel like I wish that I love Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility and Emma, don't get me wrong. But, like, I wish that more attention was paid to some of her lesser known stories.
Northanger Abbey.
Yes.
A full, like, I love.
I haven't even read it yet, and I want to see it.
Felicity Jones. She was in the miniseries adaptation. Wonderful. It's the first thing I ever watched her in. It's wonderful, but it needs a wider, like, studio adaptation. It needs it so badly.
It does. Yeah. I am also going to be reading that one this year. If it kills me, that is happening. It's going to happen, because we need to have a discussion about it now that it's like a year overdue. I agree with you, Emily, but like Derry, I also completely agree with Derry. She was amazing in that role. Like, yeah, she was too old for Eleanor, but also
they
S tier. They aged everybody up. Yeah.
Although, I mean, Kate Winslet was 19,
she wasn't really
20 when she was cast.
She?
But still,
yeah. If you look at everybody else, though,
yeah. But yeah, but even she was aged up in a way because Marianne's supposed to be 16.
Right.
16.
Yeah. She also did an excellent job with Marianne's character. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Have you seen Mansfield Park?
The 1999 adaptation.
Is there a newer one than that? I think
there was the 2007 miniseries, which I thought was fun. Billy Piper played Fanny Price.
Okay.
It was fine. It was passable.
Saying mean things about my favorite books, that would be funny. That would also be funny.
Oh no.
I don't know if I could ever say that. I have like 7 editions of that book in my house. Like you can Evie is I'm preaching to the choir over here. How many Frankensteins do you have?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3. So I have 2 down here. Well, on my shelves here, and then I have, I don't know, at least 10 various editions.
That's impressive. I have 4, I think.
Including a manuscript edition that I paid way too much money for.
That's right, I remember that.
So good.
That's so cool. That's the thing. I'm not a collector, but when it comes to my favorite books, I'm like, why not have 20 versions of it? It's fine. No, Pete, I really like Pirates of the Caribbean. I just don't like Keira Knightley in it. Although I will say that is one of my probably more favorite roles of hers, of all the ones she's done. So I will give her that. I don't know, Evie, feel free to jump in on this as well. I'm always skeptical. Always.
Yeah, I am withholding judgment, but I am hopeful because I like Guillermo del Toro.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see. I will go see it. But we'll see.
I hear people joke that the train is the best character in Anna Karenina. I am very curious to read this book now. I might bounce off of it. I have no idea. Count of Monte Cristo is another one that I really want to read.
I really need to reread it because I'm pretty sure I read a abridged version in high school, but I loved it. So it's such literally a good book. Been since high school, so 22 years since I read it. First and last read it.
Yep. It's all right. We're all old here. It's fine.
It's fine.
Oh, I'm trying to catch up on the chat because you all are awesome and chatty this evening. Dracula, Emily is currently reading that. Awesome.
Nice.
Okay. I think I got everybody's question. If you have a question that I have not answered, feel free to repost it in the chat. Mr. Collins is something else. And
excellent boiled potatoes.
Excellent boiled potatoes. Yeah. So also, I think both of the gentlemen who have played him in the 95 and the 2007, 8,
2005,
5, whatever year that was, both did a fantastic job being absolute sleazeballs. So
very tangentially related.
Yes.
This popped into my head, and I need someone to do this now. Thank you. Someone, I'm sure it's somewhere on the internet, but combine Mr. Collins's what excellent boiled potatoes with boil them, smash them, stick them in a stew. Thank you.
The things we didn't know we needed. Is this accurate?
Is it? Oh!
Everybody pause and go to Amazon.
Breaking news, everyone!
Audible audiobook.
Yay!
Congratulations to both Philip and Alan. I cannot wait to get that because Alan worked really hard on that.
He did.
That's awesome. Everybody go get it.
Literally buying it now.
I will buy it next payday. Pan's Labyrinth is an excellent film. I haven't seen it in ages.
I loved The Shape of Water. I still love it. but I'm also conflicted about it now because he ripped off what is it, Mrs. something, like a book that was written in the 80s. It's basically the same premise. So yeah.
Yep. Oh, good, Pete. I don't have to kick out one of my moderators. I appreciate that. Okay, I will say Atonement was pretty decent. I will say.
You also have James McAvoy and a young Saoirse Ronan.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Saoirse Ronan. She's amazing. What is that film she was in? It was one of her earlier ones where she's raised by her father out in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and she's basically like trained as an assassin from really early age.
Oh,
it starts with
Hannah?
an H. Hannah, that one. I love that film.
I haven't seen that one.
It's very good.
I know that they made
from what I remember
series out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. On Amazon Prime.
Ooh. Okay, so I have to ask, what are some of your favorite TV shows?
All right, easy. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Community. The Good Place. Wilfred, the U.S. version. Parks and Rec. Why am I blanking on something else? It's a guilty pleasure. This is the only time I will say something is a guilty pleasure. Ancient Aliens.
Oh. Hey.
It's so dumb. So dumb.
Sometimes you need a show like that, though.
Every time, ancient people couldn't build this, so it's aliens. And I'm like, you are so dumb. Like, humans have not changed in millennia, and you think that they were not capable of this very wonderful thing a couple of thousand years ago because they didn't have the modern equipment. Dummy.
If anything, I'm of the opinion that we've slowly gotten dumber. But yeah, and I love how so many people have put out like very plausible explanations for how they could have done these things, and yet these shows are just like had to have been aliens, 100%.
One of my husband's his own, like, I would say guilty pleasures is Idiocracy. He's like, the Idiocracy is it's becoming true every single day. Idiocracy it told the future or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Ancient Apocalypse, yes, that's very similar, but it doesn't have Giorgio Stephanopoulos or whatever his name is. Tsoukalos? Whatever. I have seen Pride and Prejudice. I thought it was very good.
I have no idea. I've never heard of that.
It is a Bollywood version.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I have heard of that. No, I have not seen that.
I thought it was very sweet.
Nice. Where's the sad girl TV?
Let's see. What was it? The Killing? I watched the first season of that. I started to watch the second season of that, and I just kind of fell off of it. But I loved the first season of The Killing. I would say that's like sad girl TV-ish. I'm not usually into like detective murder mystery stuff, but that was absolutely compelling.
Yeah. I agree. I think I'd be very interested in your opinion on Pan's Labyrinth. It is very dark and melancholy and sad.
It is in Spanish, right? It's
Yes. Okay. It has been a long time since I've seen it. I believe so. Let's see. Yes, recently I read Okay, hold on. I think I have it after writing it like 80 times across my Discord in the channel. Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons. There we go. Really liked it. You can tell that Quenby is a huge fan of Regency era everything, and she does such a good job creating that atmosphere and the characters. And there's always the insufferable family member in every single Regency everything forever.
Yep.
And she pulls that off. So there were moments where I put the book down because I was so angry at the main character's sister that I was just like, I can't with her anymore. So yeah, that'll be in my September wrap up. But if you guys have not checked out Miss Percy's, you definitely should. I have the second book up on my shelf, and I'm excited to get to that.
Hey.
Yes.
What are you currently reading, by the way?
That's an excellent question, and I should ask you the same one. I am currently reading Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft.
Listen, Alan is winning today. The audiobook is out. You're reading Senlin Ascends.
Yep.
Just don't tell them if you're not liking it, either of them.
Okay, so here's my thoughts on Senlin this far into book 1, which is admittedly not very far yet. I am in the baths for anybody who cares to know. So prose, first of all, chef's kiss prose. Like, this is the type of book where you read the prose, and as a writer, you put it down and you're just like, I will never be able to describe things like this, and I wish I could. Mm-hmm. It's confusing and very strange. So I'm just kind of rolling with that aspect of it because I typically don't love that kind of a atmosphere in my books, but I'm invested. Senlin must be protected at all costs. And so what's interesting about Senlin is, so my husband Ben is also a big reader, but he reads much more slowly and thoughtfully than I do, which usually means that he can remember what he reads a lot longer and a lot better. But I have not seen him blaze through a series like this in years. And he could not get through these books fast enough, which was super cool. So I knew I was in for a treat because he has pretty good taste, except for Gene Wolfe. But he felt very seen by Senlin's character, which there's already been like 20 times in this book where Senlin does or says something, and I'm like, that's my husband. Yep, I completely understand why he felt seen by this character. Because Ben has this lovely ability to see the good in people, even when he shouldn't. And he's taught me a lot and made me a nicer person because of that, because I'm the complete opposite. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. So I'm excited to keep going. What are you reading?
You're past the point, before I answer your question, you're past the point where I wouldn't say that I was struggling with it, but I'm like, no, I'm not clicking. It's not clicking.
I was there for a little bit. Yeah.
And then there's a certain scene that right before you go up into the baths, that a very particular scene with a very very, very minor character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my God. And I was just like, I'm in it. I don't care. Let's go.
For me, it was the description of Senlin with his wife. Like, there are some absolutely just darling moments so far. So yeah, I'm very excited.
It's not a spoiler because it's in the first chapter.
It's not a spoiler.
But the description, I've never read a sweeter sex scene in my life. Like, genuinely,
I would agree with that. Yeah,
it's like disgustingly sweet.
Yeah,
so
I would agree with that.
But to answer your question, I am currently reading Blackwater by
That's a chunk.
So I've been very slowly reading it. So it's in 6 parts. It was originally serialized, and this is the bind up of everything. So I've been doing 1 part every month, and I was behind, so I have to read parts 4 and 5 this month. And by have to, I mean it's purely on me. So
it's a buddy read.
So it was supposed to be a buddy read with Dee from Through the Pages with Dee, and just life happened with her, and I think she just kind of lost steam with it. And I'm like, if I'm okay to move ahead, there's no harm, no foul whenever you get around to it. Yeah. And if you don't want to read it, that's fine too. But yeah, so I'm reading that. I'm also reading Kim, if you're still in the chat. Russian fairy tales. We've very, very slowly been reading this. We're almost done though, because we've been doing 2 stories a day.
Nice.
And then Matt, if you're still in the chat, Matt King, we're starting a book of poetry by Sarah Tolmie. So
nice.
Because we have no other Sarah Tolmie fiction to read, so now we're going to read her poetry. So.
Nice. Do you like reading poetry, right? Yes.
I mean, I love John Keats, so
sure, that's fair.
I really, really want to read the Divine Comedy. So I did cheat and read 3 today, but to be fair and
does that count as dusting?
Yeah, sure. The third story is literally only 1 page, so it's like, why not?
That's a pretty short story.
Yeah. So,
let's see. Oh, really, Ryan? I think it's amazing.
I don't trust Ryan's opinion, so.
Hey, Brian, welcome.
Mediocre booktube? What are you talking about, Brian?
No. Everybody go subscribe to BellTube.
If only for Rick Thunder.
Let's see. You definitely should. I'm really enjoying him as a protagonist. And I typically, so I'm curious, Evie, if you feel similarly. I struggle finding books where the protagonist is my favorite character.
Yeah.
Other than Fitz, obviously, for you.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Typically, also, good night, Matt. Matt on books. He's going to bed finally because it's 3 o'clock in the morning for you.
Get some good sleep.
I don't know how time zones work. I don't know. So, I mean, I mentioned before, like, I typically don't like first person narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But when it works, like, I really love it. So a lot of the books that I love are not in first person, and so there's a wider cast of characters, not necessarily a wider cast of characters, but you have a more distance view of the characters.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of, like, the Black Company.
All the books.
The only thing that comes to mind, and that's actually in first person. So I'm talking out of both sides of my face right now, and I absolutely adore the Black Company, and the entire series is in first person, barring, like.
I mean, speaking of Matt, he and I are going to be reading the first book of that as a buddy read this month.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wait, Matt, I thought you already read Black Company series.
He is. He's rereading it with me.
Oh, got it. Hopefully it doesn't go how, Farford and Grey Mouse are.
I really hope not. Hey, I read the entire first book of Fafhrd and the I committed and I followed through.
Hey, don't yes. You need to finish the series. He's got 2 books left. 2 books.
What have you been doing, Pete? Honestly. Yes, I know. Ben has it on his. He's got an actually fairly impressive collection of Gene Wolfe over on his shelf, which I love for him. That's my diplomatic answer to that. That will actually probably be in my video about trying to say nice things about books I hate, because The Fifth Head of Cerberus, for anybody who wants to get into Gene Wolfe, and I recognize that I'm not the target audience for that specific type of book, which is fine. Don't start with Fifth Head of Cerberus. Just don't do it. Just save yourself. Don't do it. Let's see. Have either of you read Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Muro?
I have not.
I have not either.
But speaking of Ryan and Ryan's poor taste, he loves that book, and he's reading the second book. So I'm nervous because I'm just messing with you, Ryan. We do tend to have almost
opposite.
Like, it's a very little overlap. Farseer is one of the few, and live ships so far. So
because this means you can have really interesting conversations.
Yeah. So I'm nervous. The comparisons to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell are I don't know. I'm just trying to like dampen the expectations and let that comparison just leave my brain so that I read the book that is given to me, the story that is being told, rather than constantly comparing it to, you know, Susanna Clark or whatever. But I guess, I don't know. It's also nothing is like the way people talk about it, either good or bad, is never triggered any buzzwords or anti-buzzwords. I'm just very neutral about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yay, Derry. I'm excited for you. I'm assuming you haven't read it yet. So, okay, in fairness, Ben and I own shelves. Like, these are all our books, obviously. But Ben has, like, an extra shelf over by his side of the bed that's, like, all of his kind of favorites and stuff. Like, my favorite shelf is right here, and it doesn't fit everything. So, Ben has, like, a bookshelf with 4 shelves that have all of his favorites and his series on them. So like Senlin's over there, even though I will also probably really enjoy it. And yeah,
if he hasn't read it already, since he likes Books of Babel so much, I would recommend that Ben read Gormenghast series.
Oh,
at least the very first 2, because as soon as I started reading it, I was like, oh, there's you can see the influences on his writing, on his world building. Like it's so good. Oh God, I love Gormenghast so much.
I think I pointed that book out to him at one point a while back, because I remember thinking, oh, this sounds like a book Ben might enjoy. So I will make sure that's on his TBR. Trying to find, I'm assuming they're out of print.
I mean, you can find a lot of his works are really hard to find. You can still get the bind-ups of the Black Company books in paperback. Mike, if you're still in the chat, he's been so kind and generous and gracious, and when he finds a Black Company book, he's like, hey, do you want this? And he sent me like a whole ton of them. I'm like, thank you so much, you're the best.
Mike is awesome. He is the reason I own the Howler edition of Red Rising, and it is like my most treasured collection. I don't know if you've probably already seen this, Mike, but the best part of it now is the fact that it is officially signed to me now.
That's awesome.
This is like my most, if the house was burning, this is the book I would grab.
Over the children, even.
No, the book I would grab. The book I would grab, not everything I would grab. I'm definitely the person who would be in the burn unit because I ran back into my house too many times. 100%. You know what, Britton? I'm really sorry. I know that it's a big favorite for a lot of people, but nope. So many levels of nope for me. I'm curious too with Sword and Sorcery. I feel like that's going to be a tough category sell for me overall. But the Lord of a Shattered Land by Howard Andrew Jones, which is the newer Sword and Sorcery one that Andrew Wizard has been screaming from the rooftops for months, was actually quite good. So for anybody that is a fan of Sword and Sorcery, you should definitely check that out if you haven't read it already, because I thought that was pretty good.
I got them. This is awful. This is going to sound awful, and it is. But I ordered them after it was announced that he had terminal cancer. And I'm like, well,
yeah,
shit.
I mean, as horrible and awful as that is, I have been really glad to see that everybody, like, there's been a ton of support for his books, and everybody's been, like, a lot of people have been picking it up and reading it. And I'm like, I can't even imagine. It's going to be a huge, it is going to be a huge loss for the industry, but also it's awesome that he's already got these amazing books that he's got out.
Yeah.
So yeah,
which is
anybody.
More than a lot of people can say. You know.
It's true. Yeah. Let's see. Yes,
Ordinary Monsters is your Spear Cuts Through Water. All right, I will give it a look. See, Chris.
Do you have an answer for this question, Evie?
What do I think is the worst book I've ever read? What are we talking worst book? Like the worst book ever written, just the worst experience I've ever had? Either way, the answer is Deathless by Catherine M. Valenti. I hated that.
Ooh. That was like an instant answer.
Hated that book.
That's impressive. What did you hate about it?
Kim will attest to how much we both hated this book because we buddy read it and we both DNF'd it. No, I'm sorry, I take it. We wanted to DNF it, but we powered through. I powered through it on audio while I was playing video games, which is the kiss of death for any book. If I'm just like, I just need to finish it on audio, and I'm gonna play video games. It's just, it tries to be, I don't even know. It's supposed to be like this Koche the Deathless retelling, and it's just unreadable. It is genuinely unreadable. It's so bad. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. I knew it. It was so bad. No one should read it. All caps. Thank you. It's awful. If I could give it negative stars, I would. It's so bad.
I've had a couple of those. Yeah. It's honestly like I've had quite a few 2 and 3 star reads that, you know, I just didn't enjoy or I didn't think were very good for whatever reason. But for me to give a 1 star to a book is like, it's got to be a pretty awful book. I don't even know how many 1 stars I've given out. I will say, and I apologize in advance to all of my romantasy nerds in the audience. Can I just include ACOTAR, the original trilogy, as 1 book? That. And also, I'm trying to think, like, A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara would also be on that list. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I viscerally hate that book to the point where I won't even talk about it other than saying I hate it on my channel ever.
I don't think that book is for me. So
please don't read it.
From everything I've heard about it, everything, the way people talk about it, people that I trust, you hate
Makes me so mad.
Yemi is like, this is the worst book ever written. Not the worst book, but like, I'm putting words in his mouth.
There are, and the sad part is there are like moments in the story that I think were in the right direction. But
yeah.
And I read that, I want to say 4 years ago, and I still get heated angry thinking about that book.
On the flip side, what do you think is the best book ever written? Not your favorite, but the best book ever written.
1?
Or maybe a top 5.
Oof. Well, okay, so going into my top 10, how do I parse that down? This is going to be incredibly subjective because I don't know how to make it not subjective. I would put subjectively for me, it's going to be White Fang, Frankenstein, The Outsiders, Deadhouse Gates, and
please refer to Tori's more recent video about the book that shaped her.
Yes, top 10 books, my favorite top 10 books of all time. Those are probably the top 4. After that, it gets a little dicier trying to like figure out which book I would put in that spot. Yeah.
I would say, excluding The Spear Cuts Through Water, Simon Jimenez in general, Robin Hobb's books in general, any of the usual favorites that you would expect me to say, just let's throw those aside. actually one of the more recent ones. I think Perfume: The Story of a Murderer by Patrick Suskind, and it is a masterpiece. And to be fair, it was translated, so I read a translation, but that even the translation, like, it's a masterpiece. It's incredible. How can someone write and then someone translate the sense of smell so effectively on the page with words? And it's so good. It is the craft going into that. I compared it to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell in that where Susanna Clarke evokes and kind of stylistically is tying into like 19th century British literature. Patrick Suskind, again, and also the translator, is harkening back to 18th century Enlightenment era novels, but making it fresh and new and like having this really compelling story. It's just, I don't like murder mysteries. I don't read detective novels, like, but hot damn, that book is, again, a masterpiece. To beat a dead horse, it's a masterpiece.
I think like in terms of fantasy, well, even not in fantasy, I would say I would consider it's I think it's going to creep up onto my top 10 with a little bit more time, but I think Augustus by John Williams is an absolute masterpiece of writing as well. Is the kind of book that can, like, continually through the reading process, I would put it down and just be like, wow. Like, wow, what a masterclass in writing.
John Williams himself is just a masterclass, a masterpiece author. Nice. I keep telling myself, I'm going to do a why you should read like retrospective of John Williams and all of his books. And
you should.
Where you should start. Because he's written a Western, but it's an anti-Western. He's written an some would argue dark academia, but it's really an academia novel. That's also the most melancholy thing ever. He's written Augustus, which is a historical epistolary novel. And then the first thing he ever written, Nothing But the Night, is so totally unlike those three.
That more psychological?
Yeah. He also wrote it when he was in his like early to mid 20s, and you can tell.
Interesting. Sure.
You can tell, like, just reading the words, he hasn't developed that distinctive authorial voice that you see in Butcher's Crossing and
right
and Augustus. But I still love it so much. It's informs everything else, and it's really interesting to see where he started from and what the seeds are and what he grows into as an author later.
That is something that I've really enjoyed, just about having had a bunch of time now in the book community. And one of the things I really like about indie is getting to see the origin and seeing how people grow through each of their books. And sometimes like in their next, and there's so many authors that I read that I'm like, this is amazing. I can't wait to see what your next series looks like, because it's just cool. Yes. That is a yes.
As someone who knows next to nothing, and I still know next to nothing about the Roman Empire, does it even exist? I don't know. For legal reasons, that's a joke. I love it. So it's incredible.
Oh my gosh, Brian. Ouch. Condolences to Lev Grossman, I guess.
Side, that's one of Pete's favorite books. So one man's porta potty is another man's treasure.
I think, Pete, did you say that on a reread you weren't feeling it as much, or am I completely making that up in my head?
If that's the case, Pete, just admit it. You let the everyone talking about it seep into your brain.
Okay, did you not like Addie LaRue? Because if you did you or didn't you?
I did not.
Excellent. Okay, we can still be friends.
So here's the thing.
That made me so mad.
There are literal photos of me on the internet that I posted myself when I posted my review of Addie LaRue of me crying at the end of the book. I did cry. I bawled like a baby because there was a scene. You probably know the scene. But the more that I thought about that book, the more I was so rationally angry because I was emotionally manipulated. It went on for way too long. It was borderline pretentious. Genuinely,
so pretentious.
They cut off the epilogue. Like, it enrages me so much that she literally was writing this book in the midst of her getting a movie deal for this thing. So she was literally writing a movie ending, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So if she literally cut off the epilogue, it would have been good. It would have been fine. And then it would have been great if you cut off the epilogue and shortened it by 150 pages. Because it just was way too long.
Yeah. Yes. I was very upset by the story itself. I didn't like the writing in that one, so I've read quite a bit of V.E. Schwab. I noticed that you've read a fair amount of her as well.
I still love A Darker Shade of Magic, by the way. Like, I don't like the trilogy. The second and third.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one is fine.
I liked Vicious better than Darker Shade. Vicious was good.
Vicious is great. I still stand by this. V.E. Schwab should think, oh yeah, I'm gonna write a series and just write the first book. And then if she wants to write a standalone, if she has it in mind, don't write it. Just don't.
Well, then she'll make all of the reviewers really happy that get mad when the first book of the series, doesn't give them a satisfying conclusion to the entire story. They'll be happy. They can read her books. That'll be great. My favorite work of hers actually is her YA novels, This Savage Song and This Dark Duet.
I still need to read those. And The Near Witch?
I have not looked at that one yet either. I really loved This Savage Song a lot. And it's one of those books that I recommend to, because I feel like YA gets a really bad rap because of a lot of the books that are coming out in the genre right now. Yeah. There are legitimately some phenomenal YA books. And I feel bad that those don't get highlighted more than the like popcorn, Barnes and Noble kiosk typical books, because I think The Savage Song is really excellent. I think it's really good YA.
And I know Christina, Alan's wife, loved it.
It's very good.
So one of my best friends, she got me The Near Witch and the Savage Song duology, whatever it's called. And I'm still so bitter about Addie LaRue that I'm like,
that's fair.
Do it.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Read a mystery book last year called Moriarty, where the big twist at the end enraged me. Oof, that sucks. Ooh. What are we giving -7 stars?
Deathless.
Okay. Tommyknockers for Derry. Sword of Truth for Britain. The worst books I've ever read are all completely forgettable. It's the deeply disappointing books that I remember. The books that could have been. Yeah, I remember the ones that made me like really angry, and not like, so Ship of Magic made me really angry, but I can still look at that and say Robin Hobb is an excellent writer. She really is. Whereas the other ones that made me angry, I can't I can't give them that. Let's see. Great Gatsby is Britain's favorite. You also really liked that one, if I remember your Goodreads correctly.
I do really like it. Another novel where they're all horrible people.
Yes. I'm sensing a pattern.
I wouldn't say it's like one of my all-time favorites or whatever. Like, sure. It's it's good. Related, a book that I was ambivalent on, I was conflicted, that wound up as more time passed, I just could not stop thinking about, is Tinder is the Flesh by Agustina Bastarrica.
I've seen that. I have not read it, obviously, but I have seen it.
Not for everyone. It is about human cannibalism. So
that's why, yes, I remember seeing that making the rounds around BookTube a while back and just being like, Okay.
Literally, the premise is, and it's not a spoiler because I'm pretty sure it's on the back of the book, is that animal meat can no longer be consumed because there's a virus that will kill people. So they start literally farming humans for meat, and they call it special meat.
Interesting.
This shows you how awful I am in that the human stuff, yeah, it's pretty disgusting. I couldn't eat meat for a while while reading the book and also afterwards. But it wasn't the human awfulness that was happening on the page that got me. It was the animal awfulness that was happening. And I still am traumatized by that book. But
that's fair.
So good.
That is fair. That's something that will turn me off of a book very quickly if I don't like gratuitous violence of any kind. Like, I read a lot of very violent books, but if it makes sense, that's fine. But if it's just shock value, gratuitous, whatever, it makes me so mad. The worst is when it's like animal cruelty or violence against animals for no reason. And I will bounce off of that so fast. It makes me so mad because it's like, really?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Yes, White Fang. I hope you absolutely love your time with Frankenstein. Also, it occurred to me that as I was naming off my favorite or the books that I would consider like my best books, that 2 of those 4 were written by 16-year-old young women, which is awesome. I honestly think The Outsiders it gets the commodity value because of the age she was when she wrote it. I don't think it gets enough literary attention in terms of like how brilliant that book is.
Yeah, I think people also devalue it in a way because it's required reading in a lot of high schools. Same way with Great Gatsby is. Like, Great Gatsby, it's only considered good because it's taught in schools. No, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why it's taught in schools. So
exactly. Chris, I saw your comment about Les Miserables. That is one of my husband's all-time favorite books. Like, when we started dating, one of the first things he had me do was watch the 10th anniversary stage version of it. And that was my intro to Les Miserables. Nice, John. Did you enjoy? I hope you enjoyed it.
If you didn't, don't tell us, please. Thank you.
Addie LaRue, in our opinion, was bad. So I
think it's one of those books, and I think it was Doug that mentioned, like, those books that were so disappointing. I think that's actually one of those books. It's not bad. It's just, it had the potential.
Yep.
But it was just, it overstayed its welcome, and there were some key choices that were made that just made that book awful.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
But that is just awful. There's no.
I will take it off my it wasn't on my TBR, but I will especially take it off my TBR. So we've talked about a few of these books, but I want to do the Save One, Drop One with you because I pulled these 10 books out. So we're going to do this now. So I have 10 books here that Evie and I both loved. One of them really surprised me, actually. I was like, really? I didn't even know you'd read that.
You'll probably hold it up and be like, really?
Did I read that? Yeah. And we'll do Instant Death, where you will have to choose one of the 2 books, and we'll see which one ends up at the top. So we're going to do that. So this is a stand-in for Assassin's Apprentice because I don't currently own a copy of it because I'm upgrading to the trade paperback. So this is Assassin's Apprentice, and Fitz is younger than this. And Daughter of the Forest.
Am I choosing which one stays?
Mm-hmm.
Assassin's Apprentice.
Okay. Okay.
I love Daughter of the Forest. And I read the other 2 books in that trilogy. I know it's technically 6 books. And I was just so angry.
I noticed that. So that was a question I had because I was like, oh, Evie loved Daughter of the Forest. That's so awesome. And then I keep scrolling and it's like, 1-star reviews of the rest of the series and Dreamer's Pool, which I am super excited to read. I was like, what happened? What happened, Evie?
It was a one-time deal for me. To be fair, Dreamer's Pool probably deserves like a 3 to 4 stars now, like in hindsight, but I was just so mad. I was still so mad about Child of the Prophecy and whatever those 2 books were called. It's just, oh god, yeah, god, oh god.
I'm so scared now.
Abby loves them. Abby Salter loves them. So do not trust my opinion.
I mean, we have different enough opinions often enough that I still feel optimistic about it. I'm actually more excited, I would say, for her Wolfskin and Fox Mask duology, because apparently it's a like what happens when the Nordic berserkers are just at home and not raiding and pillaging. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. Let's go. Also, yes, Pete. Always take any excuse.
I think that the TLDR summary version of why I was so frustrated with the second 2 of that trilogy is that Sorsha, however you pronounce her name,
Sorsha,
in Daughter of the Forest was so incredibly complex and had such, I don't know, strength as a female character. There was none of that, and she. It felt like she changed even Sorka in the second and third books, and then the female characters in those other 2s were just like damsels at best.
I wonder if, because I think Daughter was her debut, if I'm remembering correctly. I wonder, and this is, I mean, I don't know that I would ask her this because I feel like that would kind of be a faux pas, but like I wonder how much of that was once Daughter of the Forest got picked up, if there was any pressure to like send it a certain direction or have like, oh well, we, you know, everybody loves the sword and sorcery kind of stuff, we need some cardboard cutout damsels to the rescue. Yeah.
It's frustrating. Anyway, what other 2 books do you have?
Okay. Oh, I should not put those together. Hold on. I'm gonna move these around because I don't want this to be too easy. All right. Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky versus Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. At least one of them has to be hard, Evie.
Oh no.
Also, for anybody who hasn't read either of these books, please put them on your TBR. I haven't finished this one yet, but this one is excellent.
I have to choose Guns of the Dawn.
Okay. Bye, Senlin. Senlin's walking away dejectedly in his flat coat.
That's all right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Alan. Although you love them both, so I feel like you'd be conflicted as well.
Okay, well, the next one's going to be easier, but whatever. Guards by Terry Pratchett. Piranesi by Susanna Clarke.
Piranesi stays.
Okay. Also,
Men at Arms.
Oh,
my favorite.
I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but Men at Arms was like S tier. It was just, and I don't know, did you listen to the audiobooks at all?
I did not.
Oh my gosh, Evie. The John Culshaw audio, like I don't like audiobooks, and I'm a believer in audiobooks because of John Culshaw, which I know I've been like freaking out about on my channel for weeks, but
I think so. I've been doing like as I've been reading Discworld books, I've been doing like a Discworld ranking for my own shits and giggles. And even though Feet of Clay is second to last, the only thing under that is Color of Magic because something
I like
last. I loved Feet of Clay. It's 4.5. I think I rated it 4.5 stars. but Dorfel.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love Dorfel so much.
He's
amazing.
Like,
oh my god, Carrot has someone to fight against for my affections because I love Dorfel that much.
That's impressive because I think we've maybe briefly had this conversation before that Carrot is just like one of the most delightful fantasy characters ever.
I love him. I would follow him into flames.
Mm-hmm.
I will follow him anywhere.
I have to say too, like, sans spoilers, but for anybody who's read like up to the 3rd book in the series would know, seeing him from other characters' points of view is my favorite thing, because the way that they cannot figure him out is just fantastic.
He's so genuine.
He is. It's beautiful.
And
I love him.
Say they're like, coming from anyone else, that would be like sarcastic,
pretentious, but we know but he actually means it.
Like, nah, he does.
And he writes his parents every day. Even in the middle of like bombs going off behind him, he'd still be there with his I love Carrot. What a incredibly brilliant masterclass of a Motley Crew, also just in general in the City Watch. You know who's really started to creep up the list in terms of just like every time they're on screen or in the story, I'm just like,
Nobby.
Oh, Nobby. Well, I also love Nobby, but Sergeant Colon, honestly, has just endeared himself very quietly to me in the background, because like he doesn't want to be here. He just wants to go home. And it's great. The like tired dad vibes that I get from Colon is just phenomenal.
Just pulled back in.
Yep. But yeah, I'm very excited to continue.
What was, without spoiling anything, he says like, he says something about like, I've seen the ground. I've been underneath the ground. I don't want it anymore.
Yeah. I'm really excited to try. I have the death cycle. I have the complete death cycle. And then I also have I have small gods and a couple of other like bits. I've been slowly collecting the larger mass market paperbacks because apparently they're going to be going out of print.
Really?
That's what I heard from the bookstore sellers up at Uncle Hugo's in the cities, as they were like, yeah, these are going to be, because they're doing the new ones now, which I don't like as much. So I've been slowly collecting my as many Discworld novels as I can get my hands on. But I'm going to probably do the Death Cycle next. So I've heard Mort is excellent.
Mort is still my favorite.
That's
Again, sad girl, sad books, very tangentially related, death. So, and death incarnate, like, oh my god. That's partially why I love the Winter Night trilogy so much. It's sad, it's melancholy, it's got death incarnate. So,
Evie, you need to listen to the audiobooks of City Watch. Like, Peter Serafinowicz as Death is just amazing. It's so good. It's so good.
Pun intended, or play on words intended, because Terry Pratchett apparently is teaching me well. I live for when death shows up in every single Discworld book.
Yep. The first time, so Peter Serafinowicz has this really like, it's the most like checks out death voice ever. But the first time I ever heard it I actually like did a double take and put my audiobook down, and I was like, oh my gosh, that like, I felt that everywhere.
Is that the guy who plays Sean's roommate in Shaun of the Dead?
Peter Serafinowicz? I don't know. What's it called? You know, I love Christopher Lee, but I would agree with that, Derry. He was amazing. Well, it's coming up on my... Maybe? Yes? Yeah, he was in Shaun of the... Nice. Good call, Britton.
Oh, and he played the voice of Darth Maul. Interesting. I thought that was
very good.
Ray, what... Maybe he just did the, like, body double stuff. But anyways. Oh, in the animated. Never mind. Sorry, I saw Darth Maul and I got confused.
No, you're fine. I also got distracted by Darth Maul. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. So, because that's the type of person I am. Okay.
Trained me well. So
there you go. So I know this is probably going to be an easy.
Keep Frankenstein, of course.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay. So this one, these were two that surprised me on your list of 5 stars. Anne of Green Gables, Scythe by Neil Shusterman.
Given that I never continued the Scythe series or whatever it's called. Okay, good. I'm keeping Anne of Green Gables. So
nice.
That's easy.
We should. I hesitate to say this, but at some point in the future, we should finish this if you're interested in continuing.
I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I thought the premise was really interesting.
The premise was interesting, but I'm like, I don't really feel compelled to continue.
Sure. Yeah,
and I wasn't even like, it's not like Scythe ended in a very satisfactory way. I'm just like, this was fine. Like, it was fine.
It's fine.
And I know that sounds like, oh, it's bad, but for something that I don't normally read, I think it was fine. Again, that I actually finished it is amazing. That I gave it 5 stars is even more amazing.
So since Frankenstein is the only book in this pile that you have tattooed on your body, I'm going to put that aside as the obvious winner. And I'm going to see what we end up with from the other 2 sets. Let's see. How do I want to put these together? Let's do Guns of the Dawn versus Assassin's Apprentice.
So, I mean, technically I have 2 tattoos.
Okay, well, never mind.
That are for Realm of the Elderlings. So they're not actual titles on the body, but it's related.
You didn't say specifically which Realm of the Elderlings book was your... Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's for all of it. For Ketrican and a certain character that you already have met because you read Fool's Assassin. But Assassin's Apprentice, keeping that one.
Okay. Anne of Green Gables and Piranesi.
I would actually keep Anne of Green Gables.
Nice. I'm reading this with my daughters right now, and it has been delightful. It's been an awesome experience. Anne was like...
So good. Here's the thing. Everyone talks about, like, oh, coming-of-age novels. A lot of them are with boys. Anne of Green Gables and Little Women are indicative that we need more coming-of-age novels with girls.
Agreed. And this, like... I don't know when did you read this when you were younger?
Nope. Okay. I actually read it I don't know when 5 years ago.
Okay. So fairly-ish recently. Yeah. So have you seen the miniseries with Megan Follows?
Yes, I did. Okay. I vaguely remember seeing that when I was a kid. And I fell in love with the guy who played Gilbert, R.I.P.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
So,
completely understandable. Also, I was a skinny, scrawny redhead when I was little, and Anne made me so happy when I read this. She's a little bit less of a tomboy than me, but it was more the big imagination. She was going to be a writer from the day she stepped on the earth, and the relationship between Anne and Marilla and Matthew is one of the most beautiful, parental figure relationships I've ever read in a book, ever.
This might be a hot take, but I actually really like the Netflix Anne with an E.
Okay.
I think that adaptation, they took a lot of liberties.
Yeah, that's why I haven't watched it yet.
They made it much darker because they dive into Anne's past before she comes to Prince Edward Island, and they make it really dark. But reading it, you're like, oh, she did probably go through some stuff.
And for sure.
I know it's really interesting you have this very lighthearted, borderline whimsical, I guess. Can you even call it whimsical if it's like not a fantasy book? I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very sweet children's book. And then you have this pretty dark thing. And it balanced so well for me. And I really liked it.
Yeah, it's been fun rereading it now with the girls, and like I'm doing as close to the voices of the miniseries as I can, because we just did a movie day with my mom a couple weekends ago where we sat and watched the first Megan Follows Anne of Green Gables, and then we'll watch Anne of Avonlea probably with them in the next few weeks here. And it's so fun seeing like the next generation loving. So I'm really excited because my son has not seen the Lord of the Rings films yet. He's turning 12 in December. And for his birthday, we're doing an all-day movie marathon with just him and Ben and I.
Nice.
I can't wait. I'm more excited. He's really excited. I think I'm more excited than he is. Like, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Has he read The Hobbit, or?
He's read everything.
Oh, good. Okay.
He read Lord of the Rings before I have.
I mean, like, I say good. I haven't read The Hobbit or past Fellowship of the Ring myself, so I don't know what I'm saying.
He's read the unabridged Lord of the Rings. He read the unabridged Lord of the Rings by himself when he was 10.
Oh, wow.
Like, Ben and I were not expecting that. And loved it. And he's so excited. And I remember I was about 11 when I saw part of the film for the first time. And it was a little too early because it's for Lord of the Rings. It's still pretty, like, there's some pretty dark stuff in the films, visually especially. So I'm so excited, you guys. I am like, I'm going to be watching his face the entire time. I'll be that creepy mom that's just like watching to see his reaction. But if anybody's wondering about the Venn diagram of where Evie and my taste overlaps, we have Assassin's Apprentice, Anne of Green Gables, and Frankenstein, which is a delightful combination, in my opinion.
We should do the opposite of like stuff that you love that I hate.
Well, you gave 2 stars. Okay. You gave 2 stars to Sword of Kaigen, which I saw. And
the duel chapter is still amazing, though.
Oh, so good. Yeah. That one I can, to some degree, get, because there's a whole section of Sword of Kaigen that deals with backstory that should have been removed and chucked out of the book, in my opinion, because and I had actually heard that originally she was writing a YA novel.
Oh.
And then it became Sword of Kaigen. And when you know that and you see that through line of the backstory, you're like, oh, I know where that was the YA novel. Right. So I think if she had just taken that out and chucked it, it would have been
better.
Way better. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that one I get.
Have you read Blood Over Bright?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm trying to remember what other books you hated that I liked.
Oh, let's look this up.
We're stalking each other's Goodreads now.
You loved Jekyll and Hyde, but we literally had a entire YouTube conversation about this. So
I didn't love Jekyll and Hyde.
Wait, I thought you liked it.
Nope, I did not like it.
Did Kay like it?
You
liked it.
Was it Kay or Trisha that liked it? I can't remember.
Yes, I think it was Trisha.
I think it was Trisha too. Yeah, I did not like Jekyll and Hyde. That was another one of those books that I was just like, I don't get it.
Six of Crows?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite YAs.
It was fine. It was fine.
That's fair.
Let's see. Well, Crooked Kingdom, but that's the same thing.
Sorry, Britton.
Oh, you hated The Starless Sea, and I loved it. But I understand.
Hated it. But you got to remember, Evie, I think the reason for that one is because I don't like puzzle box books. I do not like books that make me feel like I'm being shut behind a glass window and the author's just like, do you get it? Do you get it? You don't get it. You don't get it. And I hate that feeling so much.
That book is like, there's no point to it.
Right.
But damn, I love it.
It's a mess. I mean, Morgenstern's writing is. I liked the Night Circus because I read that quite a few years ago.
I like, again, like, it's not bad. Like, her writing's good, but I'm like, there's no point to it. And I recognize the irony that there's no point to the Starless Sea either, but I love it. And I know people are like, you either love the Starless Sea or you love the Night Circus. And I just happen to be.
Well, look at us just representing both sides of this, you know? Rocking it.
Shut up, Pete.
I liked Night Circus. I like the atmosphere of that book. In fairness, it has been a long time since I read that.
To answer Chris. Daniel's question, I have not read Blood over Brighthaven. I was just curious because I know it's got a traditional release, and I'm wondering, which is weird. Like, it came out and then it got a traditional release literally the year after.
Mm-hmm. How does that work? I don't know. Publishing is weird, man. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, right?
Ugh, points are so overrated. I completely agree, Matt. And that was the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars, because the rest of the book for me was 5 stars. And I actually think that she does one of the most interesting portrayals / explorations of dissociation in that book that I have ever seen. But yeah, the backstory tie-in stuff, just nope, didn't work. Still a great book, though, in terms of, I think she accomplished a lot of really interesting things with that. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
People absolutely adore it.
Again,
the dual chapter, absolutely incredible. And I'm like, please give me that throughout the entire book
for 500 pages.
Yeah.
Yep. Chris wants to know if there are any upcoming releases that we are excited about. I have to think about
easy question. Easy answer. I almost said easy question. Easy question for me to answer. There you go. Days of Shattered Faith by Adrian Tchaikovsky, the third book in the Tyrant Philosophers series. The first book of which is City of Last Chances. Second book of which is House of Open Winds.
I've heard great things.
It is. I'm so excited. I don't care what I'm reading on December 4th. I'm dropping it. And I'm reading that dang book.
I think my next Tchaikovsky read is going to be Elder Race.
Nice.
And then I picked up Shards of Earth because I was told that there is a phenomenal Motley Crew in it. And that was all it took.
There is a phenomenal Motley Crew.
All day, every day.
I like Motley Crews because Tchaikovsky, oh my God. And I actually believe that they care about each other and that they have these dynamics, and it's so good. And I can't wait. Tori, if you pick up Shards of Earth, and Pete, back me up on this, you'll probably finish the trilogy before Anitha does. She still hasn't read Lords of Uncreation, which is the third book. Anitha!
Don't put me in the middle of that. I don't want to put me in the middle of that. That's a bloodbath, that topic. I'm trying to think what is even coming out this next. I'm so bad with new releases, you guys. I'm awful. I mean, there's more potentially like short story type stuff coming out for the Lies of Locke Lamora universe.
Oh, cool.
In the nearish future, which I am psyched about.
I think, was one of the stories published like on Tor.com or
maybe
something like that? Or maybe Reactor Magazine? One of those online?
I live under a rock, so quite possibly.
Okay.
Yes, that one. And I don't know. Oh, Steven Erickson's book on writing.
Oh, I didn't know he was doing something like that. That's cool.
Yep. And I'm going to buy it so fast. I'm so excited about that. Yeah, he's been working on that. I think the last time I talked to him was last May, maybe. And he was working on it back then. So I know he's been working on it for a while.
Another book that I'm really, really looking forward to, it's not a new release for this year, but it's March, I think, is Stephen Graham Jones's newest book, The Buffalo Hunter.
I've seen that cover going around.
A vampire novel. And I'm so excited.
Are you a vampire fan?
No, but I'm a Stephen Graham Jones fan. So
you're a Stephen Graham Jones vampire fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I will read whatever he will write, and I will be happy about it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I am dying for Wind and Truth in that I would actually be dying. So. Oh,
hey.
Grim Dark Magazine. I knew it was something.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Ugh, I was watching everybody's pictures from Worldcon in Glasgow this last summer. I was like, oh man. I wish I could have gone. I'm hoping maybe if the cards fall right that I might be at the one in Seattle next year.
I'm hoping as well.
I think there's going to be, if we can all manage to get there, there's going to be a very large in-person meeting for the first time group there. It'll be great. I'm trying to think if there are any popular ones.
Dana, I shouldn't have closed Goodreads.
I'm very
Brandon Sanderson for me. That's a given.
No way. I might get run out of town, but Joe Abercrombie. I don't hate Joe Abercrombie's writing before everybody mauls me. His endings make me incredibly angry, and I don't like them. I haven't read something he's written yet where he ended it in a way that I thought was
satisfactory.
Yes. I got very mad at the end of First Law. Very mad.
Pete and I will be starting First Law in January. Pete, remember, this is your reminder.
Pete, have you read that already, or is that your first? So you're both reading. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on that. I think Abercrombie has some excellent writing skills. I just absolutely hate his endings. So, and I've read 2 trilogies by him now.
I don't know why I was looking at my shelves, because I'm like, popular book that I
hate that I own.
I wouldn't have it on my shelves. Yeah, I mean, I see why people love Brandon Sanderson. I just doesn't work for me. Like,
most of what I like the most from him isn't like his, like Mistborn was my gateway into fantasy, so I have nostalgia for that.
One thing that we can disagree on, also Malazan.
Yes, because you've tried it, haven't you?
I've read Gardens of the Moon. I DNF'd Deadhouse Gates, like 75 pages into it, which for a normal book is probably about 200 pages. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a try.
That's the prologue.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a try again. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to read at least through Memories of Ice. And I wound up DNFing Gardens of the Moon, the reread. And I'm like, this is just not for me.
It's not for you. That's okay. That's okay. That's one of the weird things that I have gotten to the point where, like, I'm so unbothered by people. The only thing that bothers me is when people get mad at me for liking things. And I'm like, no, like, you can like whatever you want. I don't care. If you're like, man, the first book of Red Rising sucks. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Why don't you like Iron Gold? You're supposed to like Iron Gold.
I was supposed to like Iron Gold. I have compartmentalized Era 1 and Era 2 very neatly. I still have not moved on to Lightbringer because I'm just taking a moment to gather myself after Dark Age.
Did Laura take a pause as well, or did she finish Lightbringer?
Both of us had basically the same opinions of Iron Gold and Dark Age, and so both of us were like, we were supposed to read it in August. Lightbringer.
This is a break. We were on a break.
And we were both like, are you ready to read this? No. Are you ready to read? No. So before the end of the year, it's going to happen, but I needed a little bit of a collect myself after that. Oh no, I will have it read before. I don't think Red God's not coming out this year. That'll be next year. Oof, that hurts me a little bit, but that's okay. One of my top 10 books. Nice. What specifically have you found any that you've been really enjoying lately? That's what I've been. So here's the thing with Lightbringer, like I can see going through Iron Gold and Dark Age where Pierce got to the point where he was like, this isn't the right, I'm not writing the right story. And he scrapped like half of Lightbringer and he started completely over. I can see how we got there. So I'm really hoping that Lightbringer, from what I've heard, is very much more of a return to form. And I'm looking forward to that. And honestly, kudos for Pierce for like being self-aware enough to be like, I don't like what I'm writing. Instead of like hustling in and getting it to print, we're going to write it over again because the story matters more than the money. Yay.
Artistic integrity. Who knew that existed? I also have been leaning into classic fantasy in that it's Lord Dunsany.
Oh, yes, I saw some of that.
To beat a dead horse, I think this is the third or fourth time I've already mentioned it. King of Elflame's Daughter by Lord Dunsany. I did not expect to like it, let alone love it, let alone love it as much as I do. It's so, his writing is truly beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's classic, like in the like classic literature style.
Yeah.
But yet still accessible, and it's just so good. Cannot wait to read more from him.
I love the feeling of reading a book and you slowly start to realize like this is a new favorite. Like there's such a good feeling. It's such a great, it's awesome.
It's gonna be really hard for me to pick. Like Parable of Sower is gonna be my book of the year unless something unseats
drastic.
It. But
sure,
like I read Happy Place. Like, who knew contemporary romance would be one of my favorite books ever?
Yeah.
Let alone of the.
I have those on my Kindle. Laura sent them to me.
Nice. But I read the entirety of the Gormenghast series. Like I finished up the Black Company series. I don't know what to do with myself. Like I'm reading too many good books. What's happening? This is not, I don't want to be in this situation again.
I'm going to have a hard time picking my book of the year, I think, because I know, well, the one that I just finished, Iron Prince by Bryce O'Connor, it's a progression sci-fi cyberpunk, and just was like checked so many of my personal subjective boxes that I was like, oh, I love this book so much. Like that's a 1,000-page book and I read it in less than a week.
Oh, wow.
And immediately I threw out my entire TBR and immediately started the second book. Like, nice. It's like, oh, this feels amazing to have a book like this. But Men at Arms is going to be up there for sure.
Discworld, I'm so sorry, dear.
It's so good. It's so like, I think Terry Pratchett in 3 books, now that I've read 3 of his books, I can easily say that Terry Pratchett is going to become one of my all-time favorite authors without any hesitation.
I'm angry with myself that it took me this long to get back into it. Because again, to belabor the point, I don't read to have fun. So when everyone talks about Terry Pratchett and Discworld,
like, it's funny. It's so funny.
It's humorous. And I'm like,
it's so deep. It's so deep.
The humor is witty and it's not
often morbid.
Yeah. Which I love.
I love morbid humor.
Yep. But that's not the point. Like the story is not because of the story is not building to the punchline. The punchline, the jokes are weaved into it.
Yes.
And the story is much more important. And it's just so good.
I don't think I've ever laughed in a book as much as I laugh in Terry Pratchett novels ever.
There was something that I gotta pull up Discord for this. There was one line that I just cackled at.
There's so many good ones.
Oh yeah, there's so many. Let's see. No, that's not a funny line. That's nope, that's not a funny line. That's a really emotional line. Like the recurring bit of a vampire like getting a job at places where he at a pencil sharpening place, at a holy water. He working in the holy water section. I'm like, this is hysterical.
Yep. And it's just subtly in there as like an it's not even like a main part of the plot.
It's just a recurring bit, and you're like, oh my god, this is hysterical.
You know what? I think if I had to, I don't know that I could do like a top like Carrot's definitely one, if not two. But one of the characters that I cannot get enough of is Vetinari. I love Vetinari. Love Vetinari.
So this is probably the reason why Feet of Clay was not 5 stars for me. Is I realized that and I'm hoping that this is not the case, but even if it is, at least I recognize it, and hopefully it won't be a deterrent or detractor. But the mysteries seem to be, not all the mysteries, but Vetinari is being manipulative. And I know that's his point. Like, that's part of his character, but I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, can it be something else?
Something else, yeah. Because, I mean, it happened in Guards, it happened in Men at Arms, it happened in Feet of Clay, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a thing, isn't it? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Ben and I just started Jingo. We're listening to, that's our like date book that we listen to on audio. When we drove down for our anniversary trip down to Kentucky, we listened to Men at Arms in the car on the way there and back, and we were just cackling and having the best time. Like, that was such a great, like, first of all, it's a great driving book. Pratchett's great for driving, and also, yeah, it was really fun to read it together. He's read Mort already. I have not. But that's my next one after we get through City Watch. So
yeah, my plan is to do City Watch. So I already read Equal Rights, Mort, and Guards. And my plan is to do City Watch, read maybe a standalone or two in the Discworld, and then read the Witches books, standalone or two, and then Death. Because I'm like, I hope beyond hope that I'm going to love all of the Death books, because I loved Mort so much.
Yeah. That was not very long either. I'm excited. That one I think I'm going to do. I want to start like going on longer walks to try to get my creativity flowing more this fall. And that might be my walking listen.
Nice.
So, but yeah. Well, Evie, I feel like you and I could probably talk for like 6 hours.
I looked, I'm like, holy shit, we can do this.
I know. So I want to say thank you for joining me on my channel. This was a long overdue discussion.
I jokingly said that I bullied you, which is my defense mechanism / thing of like, I have to bully people to invite me to stuff. But thank you for reaching out and letting.
I don't think you ever said anything about Motley Crew.
No, I didn't. So that's when I was like, oh my god. Yeah.
Well, so it was one of those things where I was looking through, because I'm like, okay, I'm like, I should write it down. That would be helpful. But I have this idea.
Looks like you need an admin.
You think?
I know an admin.
I mean, I need it's bad enough that like especially when I'm on other people's channels and my friends in the comments have to remind me that I have books that I should promote. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's bad.
Everyone go get Face by Victoria Tekken and The Bloodstones by Tori Tekken. Thank you.
I hear they're all right.
If you want a werewolf, young adult-ish age werewolf novel, but it is very complex and has some great theming.
Are you reading something?
No, that's
impressive.
I'm awful. I haven't read your books yet, but I've heard everyone talk about it, so I'm just like parroting.
Hard revoked, honestly.
And then The Bloodstones is a start of an epic fantasy series that has Asian inspired fantasy. There you go. I just said fantasy twice. Whatever. Anyways,
okay. It's extra fantasy-y.
And also, everyone, go buy the audiobook of The Way of a Dan by Philip Chase, narrated by your own Alan Walker from the
I didn't know that was coming out today. That's awesome.
We've been literally waiting for Amazon to, he uploaded it, and it's like, Amazon has to do its thing and process it. Yep. It's like,
Amazon, I don't know, this is a super nerdy indie publishing thing, but if the audiobook is on more than just Audible, I don't know if it is or not for this one. If it is, Amazon does this really dirty thing because they don't like to share. They like things to be exclusively Amazon. So if you do wide audiobooks on a bunch of different platforms, Amazon will upload it slower than if it's exclusively on Amazon. And they will intentionally take a longer time to get it up on their site. Don't ask me how I know this, because I definitely didn't experience that myself. But yeah, Amazon's great. Thank you for reading Bloodstones, Cal. I hope you enjoy the rest of it. That's awesome. Derry, I'm so glad you liked Phase. I have absolutely no idea what Evie would think of either Phased or the Bloodstones, but I'd be very curious to know.
The same reason why I haven't read Philip's book is the same reason why I haven't read either of your books. I'm too close to you guys, and
that's fair.
What if I don't like them? Like,
I will be offended forever.
Yes, you would. Like, I'm gonna try and read Severed Echoes by Anya Dillon, and I'm so nervous. That's honestly, it's really hard when it's somebody you know, and that's one of the hardest things about the indie community, honestly, for me, is all the time, because you never know if it's gonna work for you or if you're gonna get. And I'm such a mood reader. I'm very particular. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's completely understandable. Yeah. Bex, I'm hoping to start working on True Blood next year. We will see. That's the sequel to Phased, and I'm hoping to.
Oh, I thought you meant like the series, but
no, I'm reclaiming it. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try and start working on the sequel next year. But that was wonderful, Evie, and I'm sure that we will find a reason to chat again. We should definitely restart our Classics Cage match maybe this next year and see if we can do a couple of those.
We keep saying that.
I know, but we should actually really do it. I do like Northanger Abbey. I legitimately am really excited to read, so it's gonna happen. And I think Trisha's already read it, and then we just have to bother Kay to read it, and then we could talk about it. So it'll be fine. We'll do it. We got this. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Once again, if you are in the chat or watching the replay and you don't know Evie, please go down in the description box below and click subscribe to her channel and check out her stuff, especially the interview that she did with Simon Jimenez for Spear Cuts Through Water and Vanishing Birds, because that was very cool that you got that interview.
I was gonna say that I feel like I didn't talk about Spear Cuts Through Water enough. So Spear Cuts Through Water, Spear Cuts Through Water, Spear Cuts Through Water. There you go.
Filled up the bingo cards. Perfect. That was an entire diagonal on the bingo cards. All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.
Bye.